Welcome to greeneconomy.tv. I'm your host, Byron McDonald. Today, we are speaking to Anthony Ngcezula, CEO of Johannesburg Development Agency. Publisher Gordon Brown from Positive Magazine will be going in conversation with him. But before I go in, let me just play one of their up and coming projects. Hey guys, how are you?
Good afternoon, I'm all right. How are you?
Hi, Byron.
Good.
Hi, Anthony.
So I'm just here to facilitate today's show. So I'll leave you guys to get ahead with the conversation. So ta-ta, see you guys later.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Byron. And Anthony, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being on the show. It's most interesting, obviously, you as CEO of the Johannesburg Development Agency. You really are sitting there right at the coalface where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, in the context of, the developmental economy. We talk about these ideas, these notions of development economics. It's all very high level. It's all very theoretical very often. But as we know, it's really at the cities where these investments are taking place, where the implementation is happening. Perhaps just give us a sense of, from a high level, where do the cities fit into this developmental matrix from a national to local government perspective, and what is the mandate of your agency, the Johannesburg Development Agency, and what role does it play within this context?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I think on a national level, they try to cascade down the different developmental programs as well as the vision for the country. It's cascaded down to the province and then from the province into the cities. That is where JDA actually fits in. And JDA is a wholly owned area-based development agency of the City of Johannesburg. And we have an emphasis on the development of resilient, sustainable, and livable urban areas in identified transit nodes and corridors. So basically, we are more than a project management agency. We do much more than that. And the intention really is to ensure that we bring people closer to the city. We ensure that these spaces are accessed equitably, etc. And at the moment, we've got about 600 projects across the city of Johannesburg, and we've been in operation for 19 years. So basically, that.
I think we just lost Anthony there for a bit. Anthony, we just lost you there. They're on the last word, basically. We just lost you for a bit there.
I'm saying we have been in existence for over 19 years, and we, in the past 5 years, we've had a capex allocation of 5 billion going towards all these infrastructure projects which we are implementing on behalf of clients within the City of Johannesburg.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks for that that overview. And I know, look, I live in I live outside of Johannesburg, so I travel to Johannesburg. Let me rephrase that. I used to travel
All
to
right.
Johannesburg a lot, and I look forward to my next trip. In fact, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm looking forward to some intra-provincial travel. But it always strikes me when I arrive in Johannesburg that the amount of activity going on, whether it's buildings being developed, infrastructure being developed. We obviously have seen, through the 2010 World Cup, we saw some mega projects, Heart Train and the rapid bus projects and so forth. But perhaps just give us a sense of what's on your table right now. What are you guys focusing on? Perhaps your top 3 projects that are taking up your time and the time of your team at the moment, Anthony.
Or maybe before I do that, let me start by explaining that we have different programs. The first program is that of Strategic Economic Node Delivery Program. The second one is that of Accelerated Infrastructure Delivery Program. We also have an Economic Empowerment Program. And I think your question is relevant to the first 2 programs. The project that is big at the moment that we are busy with is the Jabulani TOD, transit-oriented development, as well as the Orchards Clinic, and also there's also Alexandra and Malcolm, which we are currently concentrating on. And in addition to that, we've got big infrastructure projects which we implement for departments such as the housing department, for instance, with Bram Fisher. We also have got Drizik, where we are doing the infrastructure before the top structure projects.
Right. Okay. No, very interesting. I mean, you mentioned that the what interchange project. I mean, this is obviously a fascinating project. Anybody who understands the urban planning challenges of our cities and how that affects the livelihoods of people and the quality of living of urban residents, and how we've inherited this segregated city from previous regimes and so forth. This project really goes to the root of solving or addressing some of those fundamental challenges, certainly generally speaking, but most specifically in relation to City of Joburg and more specifically even to Sandton and Alexandra Township. Can you give us a bit more insight into that project? What are the aims? What are the goals? What are the objectives of that project? And give us some sense of the vision. What can we expect that part of Johannesburg to be like once this project really beds down?
It forms part of what we call the Rea Vaya Bus Rapid Transport System, known as BRT. And this is phase 1C. It includes a trunk route from Sandton to Alexandra along Rivonia Road and Catherine Drive, and the trunk route from Parktown to Alexandra along Louis Botha Avenue. Now, it will connect via minibus taxis the greater part of Alexandra Township to the Rea Vaya system. That is important in integrating the different modes of transport into the city. Now, from a spatial and nodal development point of view, the rollout of this phase of Rea Vaya BRT, it speaks to the idea of bringing proximity to places of work and schools, easy access to public transport infrastructure for the residents and the citizens of Johannesburg. The scale of this environment, of this development, it will enable communities of Alex, Wynberg, Sandton, and adjacent area to experience a faster, safer, accessible, and affordable public transport. And the construction of this project, it links one of the government of local unities' strategic priorities, that of building integrated human settlement through the delivery of sustainable and economic infrastructure project. And the vision is just a hive of activity. People jumping off from a taxi, catching a train, or jumping off from a car, catching a taxi, all that interchange and seamless movement between these different kinds of transport systems. And also just ensuring that Alexandra is more connected to the city than it currently is.
Yes, and of course, you've mentioned the rapid bus and other modes of transport, but there's also a lot of money being spent on non-motorized infrastructure, right? So there's pedestrian bridges,
yes,
and related infrastructure. Just a quick aside, I'm a cyclist, and so I'm just going to ask this question. I mean, is part of the non-motorized infrastructure, does that include cycle lanes, and is cycling something that you
yes.
yeah, cycling and pedestrians, or is that part of the plan?
Yes, it is, because we're trying to reduce the carbon footprint in the city of Johannesburg, just to ensure that the air is a little bit cleaner than it is currently. So that is part of the plan. You are correct.
What a pleasure. No, what a pleasure. And then, so one of the things that's very interesting to me is just how we as municipalities and cities address the presence of informal settlements. More importantly, how we the decisions we make as to how to service these settlements and the people living there. Very often, an informal settlement ends up being established which is in a place that's not desirable or even safe. And so there's a reluctance on the part of the municipality to provide services and set up infrastructure and embrace that informal settlement. I mean, so the context of that statement is, if you look at Alexandra Township, and you and I will remember the early days of when that township first took hold in that area, very much an informal settlement, and now over the years it's been formalized and embraced into, you know, the plan of the city. And this project that you're doing there, it really upgrades that whole recognition of this area of Alexandra, and embraces it and pulls it in to this urban plan into the future. Is that, I mean, is that part of the vision to look at this Alexandra itself, and to upgrade the services that are being offered in there, and to generally upgrade that area? And then, as an extension to that question, are there other informal settlements around the city that have also been identified as potential areas for this type of formalization, if you like?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and I think it's a very important one, because, as you know, if you go around the world, wherever they are looking for a picture to show the disparities between two areas which are next to each other, is the picture of Sandton and Alexandra. So we are really hoping the work which JDA is doing will change that picture in years and years to come, because the infrastructure projects that we do, they lead on to the improvement of the area where we do these infrastructure projects that we actually do. And the issue of informal settlements, although informal settlements not under JDA, but we have a particular interest in making sure that wherever we work, the work that we do, people in that area take ownership and pride, and they become vigilant towards issues such as land invasion or people moving into the areas where we actually work. This we do well through a concept called co-production. That is where the projects of JDA are done in consultation and in partnership with the residents where the projects are actually located. For instance, the Watt interchange. We have a very strong stakeholder engagement strategy at JDA. that we use to ensure that we work very closely with the communities where we have our projects, so that they become aware of these projects from the beginning, so that they take pride and participate and take ownership of it long after we as JDA have left the area. And I must say, it is really true that whenever we do a project, we leave an area looking much better than it was before. And we do hope with the projects that we have in Alexandra, there are more. It's not only the water interchange. We've got the Alexandra Automated Hub. We've got other projects which we have, which we think are contributing towards raising the standard of living of the people of Alexandra. So to your point.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And it helps us also understand the broader context of your work and how you obviously have to dovetail with government agencies and the private sector and all range of role players, not least the community themselves. So thanks for that insight. I'd like to chat. You mentioned just in your introduction that one of the big projects you're working on is a transport-orientated development project. This has been a very interesting, let's say, body of theory, but certainly actually been put into practice in especially in Gauteng cities, and especially in relation to the Gautrain route, where what you've seen and it's visible and obvious, and it's happened very quickly, is if you've seen that along these Gautrain routes, wherever the Gautrain stations are, you see this sudden surge in investment in new buildings, and certainly if you look at the green buildings certified by the Green Building Council, many of these buildings have been set up along this route and have formed part of this vision of transport-orientated development. And of course, that makes perfect sense, because green buildings score points if they position themselves in close proximity to transport hubs and so forth. Perhaps comment on that generally, but also tell us a little bit more about the project that you touched on earlier that forms part of this thinking process.
Look, I think most of the time when people talk about the TODs, the emphasis is very much just on the transport system, like via the taxis, trains, and all of that. The way we think of it inclusive, in that the example of the project which I gave, which is Jabulani TOD, there are a lot of things there. I mean, shopping complex, theater, sports grounds, community development center, all of those things are in that area. And the TOD is helpful in that it's easy for people to access all of those things. That's different from when you are just talking about the TOD as being just routes, taxi routes or bus routes. Now we're talking about major centers which are linked to these routes, because I think we are even in this TOD Jabulani in Soweto. There are two little townships which are separated by a gorge or something like a small river. The people there will have to walk around to reach the other side. In the project that we're doing in Jabulani, we've created a linking bridge between those two little areas there. So it becomes a matter of just 10 minutes walk from one side to the other, instead of taking the long route. So that is the vision we have for these TODs. We do not want them to be thought of just as the routes for the taxis or the bus, etc. We would like the infills in those TODs to be things such as residential. We are hoping that by preparing the land and the spaces, when we leave, some people will come in and ensure that there are residential buildings that are erected there. We're thinking of light commercial buildings, etc., so that there can be a hive of activity in that route. So we work with different departments from health, from community development, to ensure that all these social infrastructures are actually in the TOD. They are easily accessible, as opposed to somebody having to take a left turn and take 5 or 6 kilometers to reach a particular social infrastructure. So that is really the vision that we have.
Yeah, I think it's really super. I mean, it speaks to that same idea of the city and you guys as involved in the planning and the rolling out of these projects, that what you're doing is you're looking at the needs of existing communities, and you're providing the infrastructure that will make their lives easier, that will give them easier access to amenities, access to employment. So I think that correct me if I'm wrong, but that seems to be one of the sub themes of how you see development. It's not just theoretical planning without context. You're actually looking at the needs in the city, and you're saying, right, how do we bridge this situation? How do we solve that problem? How can we put infrastructure in place to enable this community or that place to advance in line with the city's vision?
That's very correct. Let me give you a living example of what you're talking about. For instance, in the past, we used to have a clinic there, a gym there, a sports field there, all over. In the project that we're going to do very soon, it will be called a wellness center, where you have the clinic, where you have the sports fields, where you have the gyms, and all of those things in actually one area. For instance, to give you an example, if somebody is playing in that sports field and they get injured, the clinic is not far away from them to be quickly attended to, So we're trying to group all those social infrastructure that deliver services which are related. So there's a lot of thinking that is involved there, which are related, to make sure that those are actually in the same area. So true to your point, we plan and we look at the needs of the community. Remember, before we do any project, there is a lot of stakeholder engagement that takes place to ensure that the needs of the people are catered for in that particular project.
No, great. Thanks for that. And so I just want to move back up to the national level for a moment. I mean, it won't be lost on you and your colleagues that, we've just been through one of the biggest shocks to our economy ever. And of course, this gives us an opportunity as well to reset and to realign and to restart. And I think that we have some excellent leadership in this regard from our president, who is driving this idea of sustainable or investment in sustainable infrastructure as a key strategy to reigniting and kickstarting the economy once again.
Yes.
Are they engaging you directly as a development agency, and are you finding from your own perspective that are you anticipating a fast tracking of funds that you can possibly use to do things quicker, to do more projects, bring them on board, fast track things, and could the silver lining of the lockdown and of this COVID shock, could the silver lining be for the city of Johannesburg and its residents, that through this funding and through this acceleration of investment in these projects, that you are actually at JDA able to roll out more and achieve more within, say, the next 5 to 10 years or so?
All right, thank you for that question. Let me start in answering that question. Let me start this way. JDA is guided by the National Development Plan, and as you know, the implementation thereof sits in the office of the president. And in this time of them rolling out big infrastructure projects, they do interact with the provinces as well as the municipality. If I can give you an example, we met with the the director or the chief director of the infrastructure program in the office of the president, Dr. Hosiet Ramahopa. I think it was about a month ago, about the Lanceria project. That is going to be a huge infrastructure project. So JDA is part of that team that is working on that smart city project, Lanceria Smart City project. We're hoping that we can exploit some opportunities as JDA around the infrastructure projects which are going to take place when that Lanceria Smart City is being built. It's a big project over the next 5 years, as you were saying. That's part one of my answer. But because now the drive is to ensure that there is huge infrastructure development that is taking place to inject the economy. Some of the funds are going to flow into provinces and the municipality. And I think Johannesburg as the hub, as the economic hub, will be getting a lion's share of that funding. Through our treasury and our shareholder, which is the City of Johannesburg, we do believe that JDA will be given some funding and some big infrastructure projects will be coming towards JDA to implement in line with the presidential drive of infrastructure development as a driver for economic development.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I mean, it's most encouraging. And, as we started off saying, it's really the cities is where the rubber hits the tar in many cases with infrastructure projects. And look, it's been absolutely great chatting with you. Certainly very insightful. Thanks for joining the show with us and chatting with us about the work that you guys are doing. I wish you the best of luck. I wish that all the projects that you've had on the back burner, you can now pull to the front and you can do it with this new stimulus money that's coming through. Have a fantastic day forward, and we wish you the best of luck. Just as we conclude, I'm going to hand back over to you, Anthony, just to perhaps if you want to make just a final concluding remarks, perhaps just tell us about, just reiterate perhaps how you see the immediate future for JDA. And after that, I'm going to hand over to Byron. So thank you very much indeed, and goodbye from my side.
Thank you very much. I think from my side, I would like to see a JDA that is a preeminent project management entity of the City of Johannesburg, and including the Gauteng city region. We would like to work with the other municipalities if we have to unblock or implement their projects. So my vision for the next 5 years, my vision and that of the board and the shareholder, is that JDA becomes more efficient, becomes more effective, and becomes agile and financially sustainable.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you so much, Gordon. Very insightful. Very, very insightful. So I'm gonna sign off, and I'm gonna say tata to our viewers. Guys, it was a pleasure having you guys on the platform and sharing this insight and this information. So yeah, see you guys again on the other side.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So very insightful interview. Johannesburg Development Agency, as they're doing, as we know, green sustainability is the way moving forward, and they're doing their part. And that's what we do at Green TV. Green Economy TV provides insights and intelligence on all sustainability related matters. So with that, I say good day and have a beautiful day going forward. Bye.